Welcome back. Reporting live to you with another edition of our Talk It Out session presented by VERB. We are your hosts, Aaron Tate, Adrian Poe, the lovely Jasmine Patterson in the background. There we go. Everybody say hello to our future selves. Hello, future self. All right, so if you've been catching our other videos, you know what we like to do is we like to have Talk It Out sessions surrounding certain topics dealing with social issues. Today's topic is going to be dealing with man. The title of it is, What's Wrong with My Man?
What's wrong with my man?
Now, before we get into it, I want to remind you guys that we would love for you guys to comment and ask questions throughout the video. Of course, we do have our own questions that we've come up with that we're going to ask periodically throughout the conversation. But again, feel free to comment as much as you want. We want as much interaction with you guys as possible. Ask any questions you want us to answer, and we'll do our best to give our perspective on the situation. Is there anything you want to add before we get started?
That's about it. Pat Sajak.
All right.
Wait.
Pat Sajak.
Is that okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Pat Sajak.
Let's get it on.
See some people joining. I think we should wait a few minutes.
So I want to say why I picked this topic while we're waiting on people to join, because I feel like this question is it's not gender specific, because like for me, like, man, what's wrong with my man? Like my homeboy, my dude, my guy, my brother, my friend. But we have females, like, what's wrong with my man? Like, you trying to figure out what he got going on, why he act the way he act. So I feel like that specific topic is gonna be addressed in this video. And we really hope that this brings some light to a lot of areas. So scrap in and let's get it on.
And I just want to say thank you for our reoccurring fans or reoccurring people who have joined us along for this journey. Welcome to those who it's your first time joining us, and hope you can continue to join us on our journey moving forward. So let's go ahead and get started with the first question. So again, the topic is, what's wrong with my man? And the first question is, what's the definition of man? What is the definition of man?
Ladies first. Ladies first.
And we want to know, and we want to hear y'all's comments as well. We want to know what you think the definition of a man is.
What is your definition of a man?
What do you, okay, and is there a certain context? Just
for you, Jazz, when you hear, oh, that's a man, what do you perceive or consider? What is your perception when someone be like, oh, that's a man?
He's an adult.
What does that mean? We talking age?
Yes.
So anybody of age can be considered a man.
Right. Yes. I mean, you gonna save that one for later? Go ahead. Save it for later. Okay. Bring it back to the forefront. Okay. Teach me something.
Okay.
But yeah, I think as far as a man, it's just maybe his age. Because with age comes, new knowledge, wisdom. So I feel like they've reached a certain maybe plateau in their life to where they are now able to be labeled or called a man.
It's gonna get good.
Just to make sure I understand. So, a boy who reaches of appropriate age can then be considered a man. Is there an idea of what age that would be in your mind?
No, I don't know. Just older. I don't know.
18,
like maybe
13.
So that's a little young.
So we need numbers. They're doing the thing again where I have one, but I don't want to say the other.
Say it, yo.
Numbers. Okay, maybe 30 plus.
Oh, so I'm just out here. What? We ain't arrived.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you're not. Just you told me to give you an age.
What are we doing with
our life? I was here.
We not, son. We not.
I got a couple months now. Okay, this is gonna be good.
Do we have a couple comments?
All right, what did they say they think of me?
This is Miss Kathy Wright.
Okay, Kathy. Shout out.
Miss Kathy said, I have been trying to figure that out for years.
Ooh, we finna solve a great mystery.
You all tell me, real men don't cheat.
She trying to get me started on other stuff. we finna get into this though. Woo.
Was there another comment before that? Okay.
Just waving.
So basically, what we got from you were, and this, I mean, you're subject to your own perspective. So from your perspective, you feel as though a man is someone who is older, based on the fact that you're assuming that they've reached a level of
maybe awareness
of character or status
like
where
growth.
they can now be called man, a man, right?
But you feel like that's directly associated with their age.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
was that an
age-
answer?
Yeah.
So age is a
I guess-
great determining factor for you.
Yeah, just so I can see as far as maybe what they know or how much of what they know. I mean, the age can tell me what type of conversation we're about to have.
So I have a question. Since age is directly in your admitting tied to man, do you believe in old fools?
Yes, I do.
And can we call someone who's older but still acting very childish and foolish a man in your perspective?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, because they are still a man. They're whatever their actions are. They're, as you said, being childish about that action or whatever. But they are still, an older. Like you said, we can have old fools. So there's older men out there that do boyish or childish things.
So there's no defining line with you. The term man is all encompassing is what I'm kind of hearing. If you've reached the age, regardless of your actions, we can still give you that title of man in your perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. It's gonna get real good. Cool.
You can go.
Aaron?
You can go.
Aaron?
You can go. Go ahead.
I'm ready, to be honest.
Aaron!
Since I was asked first, I cannot
Come on!
son.
I am ready. Ooh. Y'all stuck.
Are we twins?
Yes, y'all are. Look at the Look at the male minds.
Come on!
Real quick.
Set it up!
This was a visual of. Look at this.
All right, bro. I'll go.
It's a visual. Listen, just one more time. One more time.
It's too much, bro. It's too much.
Come on. Give me a rock.
Let's go.
Okay, jeez. You had already said you were gonna go.
But you lost, though, son.
Be a man of your word, Aaron.
So, on a basic level, to me, a man is anyone of the male gender who has reached a stage of maturity in their life, mentally, spiritually, emotionally.
That's a good answer.
On a base level, yeah.
Okay, so for me, I 100% agree with that. I don't directly associate
Age with
man
me neither.
at all. Now, there is a minimum, like 1, 2, 3 years old, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. After 13 and up, depending on your maturity in your mental maturity, your spiritual maturity, and your emotional maturity, that's when you can, in my perspective, start being assigned the crown of man. I do not assign the crown of man to everyone just because they're of age. Because if that's the case, I can assign it to a female. Because we all, if we don't die, get of age. So that's something that naturally happens. That isn't anything that has to be forced. That isn't anything that you have to put forth effort to do. But my perspective is, once again, comes from the Bible, because I believe in God, or the Bible. So he said, when I became a man, I put away my childish things. So I directly associate manhood with mentality, because age, to me, is a common denominator for everybody. And if we're going to say that, then we all grow up to be men. And I know that's not the case.
Okay. I like that. Miss Kathy said, so you all are saying if they are over 18, they are a man versus the mature level.
No.
No.
So again, the age is not directly linked to one's maturity or to one's manhood. It's their mentality, their mindset, their where they're at spiritually, emotionally. Those are the things that make up what could be considered to be man.
And that's the problem. The problem that we have is the fact that we automatically give the crown of manhood to people for age. But let's think about it. Who can stop themselves from growing older outside of death? Nobody, right? So age is something that creeps upon you every single day. So to say that manhood is automatic for everyone who reaches a certain age is belittling the status of manhood. Because we all can agree that manhood and adolescence is different, right? The concept of manhood holds a certain set of characteristics that someone who is adolescent doesn't hold, right? Mm-hmm. So to say that age automatically pushes someone up to these standards without any force or mental conditioning or training or different outlook on life, it's kind of like downplaying the crown of manhood.
And to that point, so as far as the downplaying, so a man who has put in the time and the effort to mature and to grow spiritually, emotionally, mentally, whatever the case is, who's actually decided to look within himself to mature, you're putting him on the same level as someone who ain't done nothing. like that don't
just because he grew older, he didn't change the way he think, he didn't change his actions, he didn't change anything about him, but since he grows older, he automatically lines up with someone who meets the other characteristics.
Right.
So that's a problem.
Right. So that's why we can't directly link age with maturity.
Because age is something that everyone is subject to. But everyone is not subject to that internal growth that can now be crowned with manhood. And that's the problem that a lot of people have when we're looking at people and we're trying to figure out, well, why did he do this? Like, we use terms like, you supposed to be a grown man. That statement within itself lets you know that there's contradiction somewhere. Because that means this individual has performed some action to where it contradicts your core definition of man. That's why you use the term "you supposed to be." That means you're acting outside of the crown of manhood and acting like something different. Because if that's the case, you wouldn't say anything. You would be like, oh, that's a man. Apparently, we have some conflict whenever certain actions are taken on the individual male's behalf that contradicts our core beliefs of manhood. Because we have statements like, you're supposed to be a man.
Yeah.
And people get frustrated when we see older people doing certain things because we automatically have assigned manhood to someone who clearly hasn't reached it yet. And that's where a lot of the frustration comes from, especially with the female to the male ratio in a relationship. They are projecting the fact that, oh, well, he's 30, so he's mature. He's a man. But then when he start dogging you out, disrespecting you, having sex with all these other people, just doing everything that you dealt with in high school, you're frustrated now because in your mind you thought you were dealing with a man, but you're really dealing with someone who hasn't grew into manhood yet.
So when do you mature? If there's not a age to like kind of pinpoint. So what's the time frame or the phase in that young male's life when he matures?
So I have one question before I want to turn this to you. So can we agree before moving forward that as a whole we need to remove the age factor outside of, a baby, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old? We don't call Noah a man because he's not, because he's still getting into that level. So, but can we all agree collectively, at least just for the sake of conversation, that age needs to be removed from the determining factor of assigning the crown of man to a male?
I mean, I can take the age, but I'm just asking.
Okay,
you
so
know,
since age is
like
not a
that's-
factor,
that's
how do
why
we I just
determine
said-
it? Right. So that's why I was just like, what about the phase? Maybe in this young male's life, will he,
Thank you.
reach maturity?
So I have a question.
As Kathy said, right.
Thank you, Miss Kathy.
So we need to get Kathy a shirt.
Yeah.
So we met for the first time last year, right? When we became trainers. And last year I was 23. Now you did mention early in the video, even though at this point it might have changed, but early in the video you suggested once a man reaches about 30, he can be considered a man, right? But when you met me last year, either before or after you knew my age, did you view me as a man?
Yeah.
So what was it about me that displayed qualities of what you consider to be a man?
Prior to knowing his age.
Just how he carried himself, his conversation, what he talked about, his likes and dislikes. I guess associated that with this is a man.
That's it.
So to answer the question is, well, what was your question, like, as far as what's the timeline or when can someone?
What's the
so to me, I feel like it's subjective or it just depends on the person. Me, I decided early on in my life that I was devoted to individual growth, spiritual growth, emotional growth, whatever the case is. So at an early age, I was able to mature into what most people would identify to be man or to have manhood. So there is no specific, everybody is different. Like, even though I developed early, Adrian might not have. You know?
I was 24. I was 24 when I decided to become a man.
Yeah. And I've been deciding to grow since 17, 18. Like, I remember back in high school, me and the people that I hung around, that's all we were interested in, was growing spiritually and gaining knowledge and stuff like that. So it really just depends on the person and when they decide that they're ready to enter into that next phase.
Which is a decision. So there's not like a phase that we can assign as a common denominator. So we can't attach the age 30 to everybody, because I know plenty of 30-year-olds that's still doing the same stuff that I was doing in high school. I can recognize my childishness in my high school days. They're still living those glory days, as they call it, but they're over 30 now. I will not call them a man, because you ain't put in the work physically, spiritually, mentally, or emotionally to get to where I'm at. So I'm not going to give you that title. I'll call you a male or a boy or my guy at best, but we have to get to the point to where we're separating manhood. And that'll actually alleviate a lot of stress that people deal with trying to figure out why people are acting the way that they're acting. Because you associate childishness with adolescence. But since we are attaching age, you're now struggling with the fact that, well, dang, you 35. You supposed to be doing such and such. We get that supposed to from the fact that, like you named so easily, you saw those qualities in Aaron. So when we asked you what made people a man, you went to a go-to answer, which was age. But now that we get down to it, you like, well, dang, I didn't even know your age, but I seen this. That's a man. That's the version we need the rest of the world to know. Because the rest of the world is kind of like the perspective you came from. Like, oh, well, if you're a certain age, I'm going to call you a man. But people who are being called man, but not distributing or portraying those characteristics, there's no reason for me to reach manhood, because you're already giving it to me. See what I'm saying? And then we're telling young boys that, hey, you need to be a man. But if I'm a young boy being told to be a man, but what you're calling man looks exactly like me, then what do I have to do?
Yeah.
Like, where else do I have to go? I've arrived already. So if my high school days, I was a boy. But I just told you I have 30-year-olds doing the same stuff that I was doing in high school. There's no need of telling me to be a man, because what you're calling a man looks just like me already. So now I think that I'm a man. So now I keep growing in age, but I'm not growing in all the other areas that I need to grow in. But you've already given me that title.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Miss Kathy says, why do people say he's just being a man instead of saying that's not how a real man act?
I say that's not how real men act. People who are scared to go against the grain and who've accepted these actions as normal say things like, "Oh, that's just how men do," but that's not how men do. And the reason we know that is because we also have that contradictory thought of, "Oh, you supposed to be a man. Why you doing that? I don't understand why he would act like that." There has to be some conflict there because those statements wouldn't exist if everybody have accepted simple age as an identifier of manhood.
Which leads into the next question. So who is responsible for the stigmas that are placed upon man or men, and is it important to protect men from those stigmas? Who is responsible for the stigmas that are placed upon men, and is it important to protect men from those stigmas?
Maybe we should give them some stigmas that are placed upon men.
So what was an example of someone saying, "Oh, he's just being a man cheating"?
Yeah. So when a guy cheats, one of the common stigmas is, "Oh, all men cheat." So we're accepting that, we're assigning it to man, but then you're telling your little boy he need to grow up and be one. See the problem?
Men don't have emotions.
Okay, we're telling him that, men don't have emotions. You're telling your little boy who has to become a man one day, or who should want to become a man one day, that men don't have emotions, and you're telling your little boy that. So guess what he's going to do? He's going to assign those characteristics to man based on that stigma.
What's another stigma?
Men are disrespectful. Men don't have manners. Men don't take care of their skin, like, skin care. You're keeping dirt in their nails. Don't really dress nice. Need to have dirty hands. All those things are assigned to the characteristic of manhood. And then you're telling little boys that that's what a man is. But then when those little boys grow up and reach those stigmas, you tell them you need to be a man. But I thought that's what I was doing the whole time. Because those are the characteristics you assigned to me. And I'm meeting them. I'm dogging women out. I'm being disrespectful. I'm not really taking care of my personal hygiene. I'm cheating on whoever I'm with. I'm not taking care of my business. I'm walking out of my child's life. I'm not taking care of my stuff financially. I'm not reading books, educating myself. And you've been telling me that this is what man is. And now that I've arrived, you're aggravated with me. Why are you aggravated with me when I'm only accomplishing what you told me was manhood?
So who do you think is responsible, Chaz?
I don't know. I don't know. That accountability word kind of plays in what you're saying. Like, yeah, you grew up this way. Even you, as far as just I've heard you every now and again talk about your relationship with your dad and how you're not gonna, mimic those things that he did with you. And I don't see you being that way now. And I feel like you took accountability and said, I'm not going to be a part of this stigma, and you didn't. So I feel like men have the capability to do and say that. But yeah, your dad didn't show emotion, so you grow up not showing emotion. So in that time of you growing up, you didn't see your actions from you not showing emotion. So you said, maybe I want to work on that within myself and maybe be better at it. Like, just understand those emotions, just for that particular example. So I just feel like you kind of surpassed those stigmas because you said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be that way. So if you can do it and you've reached your level of manhood, what's wrong with the rest of them? You know what I'm saying? Like,
to address that, to address the first question, who's responsible for the stigmas? The world is responsible for the stigmas. People are responsible for the stigmas. People are responsible for perpetuating the stigmas for the exact reasons that Adrian laid out. But as far as why we need to protect men from the stigmas, yes, you brought up the fact that Adrian, he came to a point where he decided that he wasn't going to follow the example that he was given. Everybody has the ability to say or to decide, I'm not gonna follow the same pattern. Right. Everybody doesn't access it though.
And keep your thought, but I have to add some where you are.
Go ahead.
So the thing is, and I think this is what a lot of people don't consider. So yes, I decided that my father was childish, but then I realized that everybody that I have ever talked to about him called him a man. So I could have easily picked up that definition of manhood. So just because I beat that side doesn't mean I couldn't have easily picked it up. Because if that's the only definition I've been given, it's almost impossible for me to know that there's another definition. You know what I'm saying?
So you won't have a different environment to learn from. You'll just always be
No,
in
because
that environment to know that this is the definition.
Like Aaron
But
said, the world that I'm in upholds the definition of manhood that my father portrayed.
So
which is
everywhere
cheating,
he going,
leaving
right.
my mom, being disrespectful, hiding me from family, not supporting us financially. The world says to them, oh, that's what men do. So me growing up as a boy, hearing that, it's really impossible for me to even know something else exists if every way that I turn, everybody is agreeing with it. So when Aaron is saying we need to protect the man from that stigma, he simply means when those things are being portrayed, we need to pull to the side and say, hey, that's not a man. Hey, that's not a man. Hey, that's not a man. Nobody done me like that. I came to the realization only through discovering myself in God, getting an understanding by way of the Holy Spirit. Outside of that, I had no other avenue. My brother daddy did it. My daddy did it. My mama daddy. Everybody I know did it. I didn't even know that there was a different world out here. So everywhere I turned, I saw everybody agreeing with the definition. That's why I became a dog. That's why I became disrespectful, because I thought that this is what a man is. So all I have to do is do this. So it's impossible almost if the world is upholding these things, because that's all we see.
And that's why I say people are responsible for the stigmas, because you knowingly or unknowingly perpetuate the stigmas by reinforcing what's being put out there. You know, you say, before you've evolved, you used to say all the time, men don't show emotion. Before you evolved, you used to say, when men get cheated on, they never take their woman back. Before you evolved, you used to say these same things that the world is saying about men.
Right. So imagine having a little boy instead of your little girl, and your little boy hearing you say that, but then you're telling him, you're going to grow up to be a man one day. Well, ding, ding, ding. Men? Okay, what do I need to do to be a man? What? No emotions? Cool, got that. No this? Cool, got that. No that? Cool, got that. Who told me these things? Oh, my mom. Cool. I'm a man. But look at what you created, though. See the problem that we have?
So again, everybody has the ability, to do what me and Adrian did, to decide to go against the grain, but not everybody accesses it.
Because that's a hard grind.
It's hard.
Everywhere we go,
you're fighting. You're literally fighting the world.
Like, we gotta fight the world.
You versus the people, yo.
For real.
Let's read some of the comments. I think it's some more.
It's not right here. Tawanda, she says older people just accepted some things because of certain conditions. She kept going. Certain conditions of the past ages. Some women didn't work and were housewives. Accepted all things men did.
Mm-hmm. Let's stop right there. I'm glad she brought that up.
Okay.
So that's another problem that we have. So we fail to realize that the traditional definition of man and woman came from a time period that was totally different than the one we're living in. Yep. So back in the day, what made a man traditionally a man was simply his ability to go to work all day, come home, and provide money and a source of food for the woman. And the woman simply stayed home, cooked, cleaned, and took care of the kids. Those were the only requirements to be traditionally called man and woman. Can we agree with that? Let me tell you what happened when all this got mixed up. The moment that women got the right to work, that was a great moment in life, because now we both can provide for the family. We both can work together to upbuild this family as a unit, right? But what happened is we accepted the financial increase, but we held on to the traditional definitions But now we have a problem. If going to work made you a man, what happens when the woman can go to work? Is she now considered a man?
Yes.
See the problem? She's not. So we accepted the financial increase, but we held on to the old traditions. So what we were supposed to do is reevaluate what made man and woman, but we didn't. So now people realize out here thinking that all I got to do is go to work and bring money home. But guess what? The woman does that as well. And she also still cooks, clean, take care of the child, take care of the house. And now that creates aggravation. Because in the male's mind, I'm still accomplishing my duties as a man because I went to work. In the female's mind, I go to work and I do all these other things. And that creates turmoil. You wouldn't believe how many people I know personally are going through a divorce right now. Guess why?
Because
the male thinks that all I got to do is go to work and I'm a man. I kid you not. I can file with 4 couples right now that's going through a divorce because the male simply thinks that all I got to do is go to work. He comes home, he takes his shoes off, he grabs a beer, take a bath, he eats and go to sleep. The woman is left to take care of the kids, clean the house, and she got off work too. And now we have turmoil in the house. And now you've been married 50 to 30 years and now you want a divorce. Why? Because a lot of women are coming to the realization that I need more from you. Men who think that they're men don't want to accept the fact that, well, since the woman can work and I can work, that no longer makes me a man. So the real question is, what makes me a man? And while we're figuring that out, guess what you need to be doing? Taking care of the kids, changing clothes, cleaning, and cooking. Because if truth be told, by the definition, the woman now is more man than man if all he's doing is going to work. Because she go to work and do the other stuff. So let's get rid of that old school definition of man because that no longer applies the moment that women got into the workforce. Can we agree with that? So now we need to determine what is a man.
Let's read some more comments.
All right, Miss Kathy says men who have many girlfriends and not being respectful of a woman. I think that when we were talking about the stigmas.
Yeah.
Tawanda said that's good. Monique says, I believe being a man is a choice, a decision.
True that.
Denise says, wow. Tawanda says, that's good. Denise is agreeing. She's saying yes. Yeah. Denise says, this is good. Thank you, Denise.
Shout out. So that leads into the next question. So as far as figuring out what is a man, can the label of man be a type of box that boys and males are placed in? Would you consider the idea of being a man to be something that boxes boys and males in?
I don't know how to answer that.
What you mean?
I don't.
Do you think the title of man can be limiting on a male?
I mean, what is somebody gonna call it? Other than...
Oh, so let me rephrase this. So has there ever been something that someone assumed you couldn't do because you were a woman or that you were viewed as a woman? Mm-hmm. But in your mind, did you believe just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't do this, right? Mm-hmm. So in that sense, someone limited you because they viewed you as a woman.
Right.
So the same thing for men. Can the idea of being a man be limiting for males the same way the idea of being a woman can be limiting for females?
Yeah.
And you've already admitted certain areas where we were limited before having Talk It Out sessions. We were limited in our ability to display emotions without being considered weaker. We are limited by society in our ability to take care of ourselves without being considered feminine. Because I posted stories sometime with face wash on. They're like, man, what you doing? As if my skin don't get dirty too.
Right, we don't get acne.
Like what you need. So like we have those same limitations. So the first thing we need to do is unlimit the term man. Because a lot of males are limiting themselves. That's why they're losing their families. Because they don't think that men supposed to wash dishes, wash clothes, watch children, cook, clean. These are the things that aggravate the woman because she understands I'm doing this and I'm going to work too.
And I think the problem speaks more back to what you were saying earlier. Like, whoever created these ideas of man and woman in the very beginning,
they didn't update
that idea. Yeah, that idea is not
updated.
It's not evolving with the time.
Updated.
Like, times are steady evolving, but
and
you still got
that. All I got to do is go to work.
This prehistoric term.
Like, I work today.
Like, bruh, update your software, yo.
All you got to do is update it. And this is the thing. Once the titles are updated, that's when we can really get into the deep stuff.
Right.
Such as when I say provider, you think, and when I say you, I'm talking about y'all who still believe the traditional version of man and woman. When I say provider, you think financially, right? Mm-hmm. If we update the software, we understand that the woman is a provider as well because she provides money for the house just like he do. So now we need to get deeper. I need to also provide a safe space for my woman to dump her emotions in. But we don't see provider like that because we still think that we're talking about money. When I say provider, I need to provide a safe place for my son to feel like another man can show him love. But we don't think of a provider like that because you think that all I need to do is bring money home. See, there's many different sub areas of the word provider, but since your software isn't updated, you think that as long as Adrian Poe goes to work and pays the bills, I'm a man. But Swanee pay bills too. Swanee pay the same bills I pay. I'm going to go in the same house. So we need to update our software and understand that those traditional things, we all got access to. So what really determines man and womanhood are those internal things that we can't even talk about because people still think that man and woman is these staying at home and going to work.
So how do you think this should be communicated to men? Through
VERB talking out sessions.
Obviously.
Clearly.
What are we doing?
If they didn't have this, then what other outlet could they have this information as far as a different term or a different definition of provider? Who else could they hear that from?
So that actually lead that. So
we're getting really good at this leading to the next question.
Look, I'm legit at this, yo. So listen. So the next question is, what is the biggest problem you identify in today's boys and males? What is the biggest issue with that? And before we get into the question, we got a couple comments.
You be good keeping up with the people.
I'm just trying to be efficient out.
I'm playing. You good keeping up with the people.
Isaac said, give it to them from the word of God, please.
Let's go, Isaac. Isaac Clayton.
Yep.
I bet. All right, little Facebook friend.
Kathy Wright says, my son was taught real men don't cry and be hard. See? Or whatever that means.
See? Put it in the box. Put it in the box.
That's another stigma.
She said, I don't agree with that.
Thank you, Kathy.
Denise said, yes. So hey kid, dump her emotions. We need a book, please. Stop playing. She also said, so when are you going to write a book? Jeremy says, no real mentors for younger people.
True.
Probably the answer to my question. So, biggest problem, I want to hear some more people though. What is the biggest problem you identify in today's boys and males? I want to hear some more comments on that.
That was a good question you asked, though, Jay. It's like where would they get this from? Because that would have been a great thing for me to know before I dogged my wife out for the last 7 years before we got married.
And to be honest, like I feel like, women or wives do try to communicate, but because that man is, maybe set in how he receives information, it's probably black and white, and he hasn't been updated with the new software. So I think it's like she's constantly talking to a brick wall because he's not going to be receptive of how she communicates. So then it's just the constant friction. So if he can't talk to her, who he going to talk to?
And I'm going to make a bold statement here. I fully believe that every wife or every woman has tried to communicate what we're communicating to their significant other. I fully believe that. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you were in a legitimate relationship where we've agreed to grow together, I fully believe in some way, form, or fashion, that woman has tried to let him know that I need more. Now, I don't believe that all of them done it effectively. Now, I do not believe they done it effectively because this is the thing. When you're dealing with someone with old software, with that, I went to work today, so I'm good. That means when I get home, I clock out. I'm a man. I've accomplished my job. When the woman comes and say, "Hey, could you change the clothes? Could you wash the dishes? Could you cook while I take care of the child? Could you do this?" Boys interpret that as nagging. Mm-hmm. And the reason I think you're nagging me is because I've already accomplished my job for the day. I'm done. Right. So when you're coming to me with other stuff to do, I don't understand why you're coming for me, because I've done what I'm supposed to do as a man. And he's literally blinded by the fact that your wife got off work too. Like, it's simple. It's really, really simple. But we've perpetuated the ideas and the stigma so long that this sounds like, oh my God. But it's really simple. You go to work, she go to work. So that means you need to clean, she need to clean. You go to work, she go to work. That means you need to cook, she need to cook. We need to work together now. Because in the past, you had one task, which is working. I had one task, taking care of the house. But guess what? We now both need to do the same thing.
I feel like this needs to be discussed or something in maybe the dating phase of them, because I feel like if you're not seeing, these things, or seeing this man, no, provider is not just about bringing home,
no, because we're both providers,
check, right? I feel like women need to maybe kick it in gear with like checking to see if they have that before you even get to marriage. Before you even put yourself through a messy divorce. See, during the dating phase, actually date.
You would be
actually
surprised.
Figure out if this man is able to
all but name dropping. Two of the couples that I'm counseling through situations like this. One has been married 17 years and the other one was married 25 years. And the marriage could have been saved if the male would simply understand that going to work don't make me a man. That's all. That's all he had to do. And I know it sounds simple, but you would be surprised how many people are affected by this.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
This has affected so many areas of relationships and marriage.
Wow.
Like, you would be surprised. All he have to do is understand that going to work doesn't make me a man. My ability to constantly mature and develop in my core foundation is what makes me a man. So when we say provider, get rid of that financial. Think of other ways that you can provide, whether it's providing emotional support, whether it's providing a sense of protection, whether it's providing somebody to communicate with. Because most guys don't even know how to communicate. Those are three areas of provider that need to be worked on right there.
I thought partner was a strong word for married couples. Like, you don't see it as man and woman, like y'all are partners. So we both
need to be doing it,
right? And then, like, when you break down, when you get rid of those limitations or those boxes that were placed in you, you really get to see, oh, we can do the same thing.
Do this, yeah.
Like, I can provide just for you, just like you can provide for me. I can clean the house for you, just like you clean the house for me. I can cook a meal just like you can cook a meal. So,
and that's where we really get into living a healthy relationship, to where we both understand that there's no limits on us. Like, I don't feel less of a man for washing dishes as my wife does for cooking. If she cook, I wash dishes. I wash dishes, she cook. So the only way that those traditional patterns still work is if the man is the only one working and the woman is at home. If the information has been updated and you haven't updated your software, it's going to create stress, divorce, backbiting, pettiness, deceitfulness, cheating. All those things are accumulated now because we're really fighting against each other.
All right, so Denise says one of the biggest problems of some men is they are allowed to act bipolar in their emotions, all because he doesn't know how to communicate. He just being a man.
Yeah, that's another stigma. That's not. Men don't do that. Children do. Like, if I tell Noah to go to sleep before 9, guess what he gonna do? He gonna put up. Ah! He don't got no control. Only thing he know, I want to be up running around the house. Tell me to go to sleep at 9. Get what I'm gonna do. It's a good idea.
I got work in the morning.
I got work in the morning. See, men can logically understand When advice is being given to them, we receive it and we use it for our benefit. Only children lash out and start getting, we got to separate the two.
Right.
Denise also said their anger justified, their behavior is justified. Any area he lacks in is justified because he's a man.
And that's the problem. She's absolutely right. Because we've already given him the crown, there's nothing for him to obtain. So if I do something childish, I'm already a man, so I ain't got no room to grow. I ain't got nothing to learn from it. I'm here. That's some foolishness there. And that's why we in the situation we in.
Did we have any comments before that?
No, we did not. Jeremy says, when a woman is considered nagging, it could sometimes be the delivery of the message and how she's saying it. Because a lot of men grew up with strong mothers who just talked at and yelled at them. And then as the boy gets old, he starts to shut down if his woman is coming with that same delivery.
I agree with that. At the same time,
Okay,
he gonna have to deal with that. Like, that was your mother. Your mother may have been immature in her area of delivery. And I ain't talking about your mother, Jeremy, just anybody in general. But I'm not going to take that into my partnership with my wife because me and my mother wasn't a partner. My mother was just a catalyst to get me to my partner. And I understand that if I married you and we've had these conversations, I understand that what you're telling me is going to benefit both of us. You're not going to tell me, oh, you should cut off your arm. Why you ain't cut off your arm yet? I ain't going to be like, oh, you nagging? Because why would you ask me that in the first place? Like, I see what he's saying. At the same time, the perception of that needs to be dealt with internally. Because we can't continue to blame mom for how we're receiving wife. Because your mom and your wife is not the same.
They are not the same women.
Your mom and your wife is not the same. Your mom had one job to let you survive until you find your wife. Now that you and your wife together, y'all got to come on the same level of communication. So no, a lot of times when we call it nagging, they're really trying to encourage us to do better. Now, the delivery, I agree with that. A lot of times, their delivery is off because they're a little emotional.
But why are they emotional?
Because we perpetuated the aggravation in you by not doing whatever it was you asked us to do.
So, whose fault is it
Both
that
of us.
now you hear this aggravating, nagging voice?
Both of us.
She has to elevate herself in her voice
Then
because
I'm
you
going
ain't
to
been here.
I'm playing.
You ain't been hearing her.
I'm playing. You're right.
You ain't been hearing her, so now she got to take it here. She probably was trying to talk real calm
I
to you
agree.
about whatever the situation may be, but you either wasn't hearing her
I agree.
or you was ignoring her. So now I got your attention.
You was imagining that it was your mama talking
But
to you.
now I got your attention because I don't raise my voice, and now I'm nagging you because I'm louder than usual. Where was this awareness of you listening to me now when I was
It's
trying to be
immaturity.
calm?
It's immaturity on the male's part.
The effectiveness of, so everybody hasn't reached the point in which they can effectively relay or convey what it is that they're trying to say or what it is that they want another person to understand. So yes, while you may have started off being calm in what you're saying, because you're not able to actually sit down and break down, hey, this is why you can help me, because just because you think all you have to do is go to work, that doesn't mean you have to be limited to that. Women, can we agree that most
women ain't told them? You know they ain't told them folks that.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, baby, you do know that, if you going to work doesn't make you a man, you have to do more. Because remember, we actually had another conversation where you was like, well, yeah, certain things y'all don't want to say because it may hurt our manhood.
Right, y'all's ego is a little strong.
So,
That's what I'm saying.
how do you expect us to know if somebody don't tell us?
So both parties are
Start
responsible.
being receptive of criticism and or somebody telling you something that you're not used to doing.
But
some women don't be wanting to bruise a man's ego because he probably
and that's why he eventually bruised her soul for being that way the next 25 years, and then she got to get a divorce, start her whole life over.
Right.
So somebody got to get bruised, and let's start bruising now.
Right, and it's the responsibility falls on both parties.
Yes.
You have to work on your ability to be able to convey,
and we got to work on our ability to be able to receive.
Okay.
We both got a part to play.
We do. You right. Denise says men can logically understand. Jeremy says it goes back to the box we're boxed in, and they haven't learned communication skills.
Correct. I agree with that, Jeremy. That's Jeremy
Bowen?
Bowen, yeah.
So for me to revisit the question, what's the biggest problem you identify in today's boys and males? Somebody said no real male figure or role model. I think that plays a part. Another part is the fact that there are those stigmas out there, and those are the stigmas. If we don't have a positive male role model, those stigmas are our role models.
That's it. That's
So
all we got.
and again, as long as that we as people continue to perpetuate these stigmas or continue to verbalize that this is what this is, or agreeing with these stigmas, those boys are only going to have that example as a model, that example to model their behavior behind. So I think that's the biggest problem as well. It's just we have to get rid of the stigmas, period.
Did we answer when I asked other outlets?
No, not really. How would they?
So it's like
outside of this,
the wife or your spouse, like who y'all need to talk to.
So this is the thing. There's multiple ways that this information can be relayed because we're not the only two men in the world.
Correct.
One, the people who have amazingly made it out of the stigmas need to start talking. We also need to be passing this stuff down to the kids because this is another problem. A lot of men have children and they're trying to comfort their child by handing them the stigmas of the world because they went through it. Like, what I mean by that is people say stuff like, well, they got to go through it because I went through it. That's not true. Just because you went through that childish stage of being disrespectful or having sex with multiple females, that doesn't mean that's a rite of passage you give to your child. If you've grown to realize that regardless of that passage I went through, I eventually had to acknowledge that that really wasn't a good idea. How about go ahead and give that to your child? He can skip all the other stuff and go ahead and arrive at manhood for that area. So that's another problem. A lot of men are not foundational in teaching it. They've arrived at it, but teaching is another problem. Then it can be done by research. There's plenty of people who have arrived and teach it through books. But this is another problem that men have. Because the world assigns manhood as a crown, we think that we've arrived. That means I don't have to research and read anything after school because I'm already man. I already know what I'm doing. So I don't want to read a book about being a man because everybody's telling me I've already made it. So how am I supposed to know I ain't made it? So there's avenues to get this information. Self-searching.
What you think about therapy?
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with therapy. The world needs therapy for this right here. Because this is a problem.
Yeah, okay. Isaac says, Facebook friend. Man, I'm family, LOL, for a long time now.
Let's go.
Denise said her husband said y'all speaking facts.
Let's go.
And Tawanda said 100. Okay, they agreeing with what you're saying. They like it. I like it.
All right, so let's move on. Next question. Should the term man be all-inclusive? And if not, what are the negative effects of merging male/boy with man? So and I know this is something you've struggled with recently. Should the term man be all-inclusive? Meaning if I'm not a man in all areas, can I still be labeled a man, or should I still be labeled a boy until I've achieved manhood in all areas? Should the label of man be all-inclusive?
I just feel like because something we had, talked about as far as how you consider yourself a man. So if you are now able to call yourself a man, that means that there's no other areas that you're imperfect in. Like you've reached man, what was it? My man don't what?
Manhood?
No. You say something about
the manhood crown.
The manhood crown. So you reached that. You got it. It's on your head, right? Mm-hmm. So once this on there, you can't do no wrong. Like you can't be childish or revert back to maybe how you used to be or how you used to handle things because you got this crown on. So the crown is just like you're perfect at this point. Is that Is that what you're saying to me once you reach that peak of mandom, I guess?
Nope. I don't believe that.
No?
Mandem.
Okay.
So
Is that-
this the thing.
I like that word, man.
So let me give my definition of man before I give my understanding of what you just said. My definition of man is a unlimited, constant, maturing mentality for every area of life that comes up. That's manhood. A unlimited, constant, maturing mentality for every every situation in life
Where you at definition?
that comes up. I'm afraid to look
Google
at
ain't gonna
manhood on
have
there.
it,
Google
yeah.
ain't gonna do it
have
justice.
Okay.
I don't think Google gonna
Well,
do
I
it
like
justice.
this then. Okay.
So manhood is a unlimited, constant, maturing mentality for every situation of life that presents itself.
Yeah, so Google just says an adult male human being.
That's the problem.
See,
That's the problem we have.
we not specific.
That's the
son.
problem.
That's
That's the problem. So can we agree with the definition that I've offered?
Yes.
A unlimited, constant, maturing mentality for every situation of life that presents itself. Okay. And that would explain how the software could have just simply been updated. Women got a job, men got a job, so let's update our thinking of how we're going to conduct ourselves in the household. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That definition can kill all this. So, the reason that I don't believe manhood is all-inclusive is because no one arrives at a matured level of thinking for all areas at one time. Kind of like a nurse, right? You got your CNA.
We need Monique for this.
Monique, give me the nurse schedule.
Yeah, give us the breakdown.
From
the levels.
The
levels.
From low to high, all the way up to a doctor. I need the starting all the way up. Give me that schedule real quick.
Yeah.
Denise says, please share with us a good book that men can read to edify themselves, especially if they grew up fatherless.
Edify. Okay.
My sister, Miles Monroe, The Power and Purpose of Man. But this is the thing. He also has one titled The Power and Purpose of Woman. Both of those books need to be read. The man needs to read the one about the woman and the one about himself. The woman needs to read the one about the man and the one about himself. Like, that book literally changed, both of those books changed my life.
Tawanda says, unlimited, consistent, maturing mentality in every situation life brings upon one.
She wrote out my definition. Monique, is Monique still on her?
I'm sure she is.
Okay, what I'm getting at while she's waiting, the reason that I feel like people can be men in certain areas, but it shouldn't be all inclusive, is because it creates the problem, like we stated earlier. Once you assign the crown and make it all inclusive, I don't have anything else to grow in. Right. So I think that I've arrived in all areas when I'm really not.
Right.
So the crown of manhood works like nursing school. When you get your associates, you're a nurse, right?
Yes.
When you get your associates in nursing, you're a nurse. Mm-hmm. You're a specific type of nurse that comes with specific job capabilities and requirements, but you are a nurse. You don't have to wait till you get your PhD in nursing to be called a nurse, do you?
Or bachelor's.
Or your bachelor's. You are a nurse. Then you go on and get your, what's next?
Bachelor's.
Bachelor's. You're still a nurse. Your title didn't change. Your characteristics, your job responsibilities, and your understanding in the area of medical field changed, but you're still a nurse. Now, there's still things above you that you have to achieve, but I'm not going to take your title of nurse just because you haven't reached these other things. So what we need to do is really start identifying those specific areas that the males haven't reached manhood in, so that we know the areas we need to work on. But if you're calling me a man all inclusively, when you come tell me, hey, you may need to start helping out a little bit, why? I'm a man. I don't do that because I think I've arrived. But I ain't got no PhD. I got an associates, but I ain't got no PhD. And associates is simply, I went to work. Bachelor's, master's, PhD, I cook, I clean, I take care of the kids, I provide emotional, physical, financial, spiritual support as well. Now I'm a doctor in this thing. So we really need to start identifying the specific areas that the males haven't reached manhood in.
I think something that needs to be addressed though, because you brought up you often bring up the fact that once you have this title of man, that exonerates you from making mistakes. No, but I'm saying to his point about his definition of man is the constant maturing. That doesn't constantly maturing doesn't make you invulnerable to making mistakes.
Right. I know that. That's why I was just trying
right,
to take
but
this
it's not the mistakes that makes you that makes you a man. It's learning from those mistakes and continuing to mature from those
That's what
mistakes.
Makes you a man.
So make the mistakes and don't work on it.
Then you're a boy.
Okay.
Another point or another example though is disrespectful. Like, just because I haven't necessarily matured in all areas, it's still disrespectful to put a man and a boy on the same level. Here's why. So you told me this story before, how some guy went to school and got his doctorate.
Yes.
Right? He went to school and got his doctorate in whatever his study was. And so once he graduated and got his doctorate, he then only wanted to be referred to as Doctor, whatever his name was. So if anybody was to call him by just his regular name without attaching that doctor, he had to stop him. Like, hold up.
Doctor.
It's doctor. And at face value, it's like, you tripping. But it's like, he had to explain, I went to school and worked for this title.
Put in work.
So
give me my crown.
You're not going to belittle the work that I put in by not placing that label that I earned as doctor, whatever my name is. So it's the same thing with man. I put in work to mature to this point to where I can now be labeled as a man. But by trying to put me on the same level as a boy is now belittling the work that I put in to reach this level that these boys have not yet put in the work for. So that's why it's okay to label a person a man as long as he's in that constant maturing state. And that doesn't mean he's not going to make mistakes. That just means he's going to learn and continue to mature from the mistakes that he makes in order to reach that perfect level.
Right.
But we can't put the boys on the same level if they're not if they're not thinking the same. That's also why we have to make that separation.
The mistake itself doesn't alleviate the manhood. The inability to grow from that mistake alleviates the manhood in that area. Does that make sense? Like, if I do something unknowingly that's childish in the area of the manhood that I'm in, I made a mistake. But as a man, I understand that when I make a mistake, I have the ability to assess that thing, learn from it. I'm not doing that again. But if I keep doing that, that's childish. That means I've not reached manhood in that area yet.
Right. Okay.
Now, I can be a man by going to work, being faithful to my wife, but take communication. Okay, I'm a man. I go to work. I take care of my wife. I provide emotional support for her, right? But then in the area of communication, we have a big blowout. And I handle it immaturely. I go on, and between the time that I go on and we come back and we have another argument, I should have learned something from the last time I did that. Right. But if I didn't learn anything from that last time, I can't call this next time a mistake. I'm deciding to remain immature in this area.
So what happens at that point with you?
I have to develop now in that area to become man in that area. I can keep my titles and accolades and all the other stuff, but I need to realize now that I don't have this crown yet. And it's the crown of communication. So I need to be reaching out, looking for a book, looking for a seminar, talking to friends and family who I feel as though has reached the level of communication, talking to my wife, understanding how I need to communicate so I can get that crown. But if I think it's all inclusive, I already got the crown. So I ain't got to do no work to get it. And that's what separates man from male and boy. And if we don't keep that separated, we're going to continue to be in the situation we in. Assigning crowns to fools and calling them kings.
And separating it also helps protect the term man as well.
Yeah, then that's inclusive with what we mean by we need to protect the man. And that's the definition that I gave needs to be protected in all areas. So when it's identified as being outside of the area, don't assign that title man to them. Don't give them that. Because when you give it to them, they're going to take it and they're going to wear it. And you know they don't supposed to have it on. Like the whole doctor. I'm a doctor. Don't call me sir. Don't call me mister. I put in work. Give me my title. You gonna let me operate on you without no doctorate degree? Why?
Because they ain't got no degree.
But you run around calling these fools men though. You know they ain't got no degree in this. We out here.
We out here, son.
Monique gave it. She said CNA, CMA, LPN, RN, NP, DNP.
So that's 5 levels, right?
Right.
All of them are considered nurses, but it's like the crown of manhood. Like all 5 of those areas are nurses. That don't mean that they're not a nurse in the area, but you still have room to grow. But what we do with manhood is we make it all inclusive. So we think, oh, you got your associates? Well, here's your bachelor's. I'm sorry. Whoa. We're giving people too much authority, too much credit inclusively, but then we're expecting actions that they've never trained for. That makes no sense. I don't need no CNA doing my surgery. I need the doctor doing the surgery. I need the CNR taking care of me. And as long as I separate the two, I'm fine. If I find a doctor that can't do surgery, we got a problem. Because you should have these characteristics now. So we have to stop making this thing all inclusive and expecting different results. If you told me I was a man, regardless of whatever I was doing, don't come tell me I need to do anything else because I've arrived already. If you only assign manhood for the areas of this, this, and this, I understand that I still need crowns in these other areas. I still got to get my bachelor's and master's and PhD. I got associates, and that's fine. But I'm failing in the other areas. And that's why divorce rates are so high. Relationships are going down the drain. Women are not being respected because these people are around here with associates trying to do operations on people. You ain't made that yet, homeboy.
So how you feel?
I understand. I understand what you're, like, how you're saying it, because initially when you were talking about it, I thought that you were saying, you know, once you reach, I guess, the title of man, like, you just have no room to make a mistake.
That's
and
the
if
problem.
you make a mistake, are you, you know, still considered a man?
A mistake, yes. A mistake doesn't alleviate you from your crown.
Right.
The inability to grow and learn from that mistake alleviates the crown.
So that
because it reveals your immaturity in the area of manhood, which is by definition the constant, unlimited ability to be mentally growing in every area that presents itself in your life.
So that'll diminish your crown if
it reveals you
don't
didn't
grow.
have it.
Okay.
It doesn't diminish it. It reveals the fact that you didn't have it. Because a mistake is something that happens once, right? Can you make the same mistake twice?
You can.
But so no, the first time you do it is a mistake. The second time that's a decision because that already happened before.
Right.
There's nothing mistaken about something you've already went through.
Right.
So I cheat on Swanee, right? Well, cheating ain't no mistake, but that's a decision. Let me see something that's a mistake. We'll use communication. Say me and Swanee get into an argument, right? And in my anger, before thinking about it, I lash out and yell at her, right? I made the mistake of not controlling my anger. The next time we get into a discussion, I shouldn't still be lashing out yelling. Because at that point, I've already identified that, dang, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I can handle that better. So next time I do it, I decided to do that. Because I'm well aware that this is something that's a problem. And the fact that I don't recognize that and grow from it reveals I don't have that crown of communication of manhood. I need to grow in that area.
The battery's dead.
Do we know when it died?
I'm sure we can still hear.
Stacy is agreeing with you. She's saying yes. Nancy said it's a decision the second time.
Yeah,
And
that's a
she
decision.
also said you talking good. No.
You can't make the same mistake twice. It's not a mistake, and I don't like how people call stuff mistakes when those are clearly decisions.
Yeah.
All mistakes are decisions, but not all decisions are mistakes. But we'll get into that in another video.
Okay. Because I feel like that's a
Yeah, we'll get into that.
question by itself.
Yeah, we'll get into that in another video.
Calm down, sir.
We'll get into that in another video.
Don't do that.
I'm saying that you're not the only one.
Stacy also said that makes sense. On point. She agreed. That's good there.
Was them all the questions?
Yeah, that was all the question. So how do y'all feel ultimately? What's the moral of today's Talk It Out session?
What did we learn today? What are your takeaways from this Talk It Out session? What did you get out of it, Jay? Give us one thing that you're gonna walk out the door and work on incorporating into your being of Jazz Patterson.
I'm going to realize that.
Look closer, please.
Mike, yes. Got new batteries, so you ain't got no excuse.
And I bet you'll hear me just fine when you play it back. But I think I'm going to take away the fact that you stated, age is not, the defining factor of letting me know that you are a man. I have to look at your mental and your maturity in order to come to that decision if you are a man or not. So I'm gonna take away that clearly age is not
Well,
it's not it.
It can't
It's
be,
not
man.
gonna be the one where it's like, oh girl, he's 33.
Oh, he's 53, girl.
You know he a man.
He has arrived.
He is old at this point, girl.
They doing
He
the
has
same
reached it.
stuff we did in high school at 53.
Too many young influences around them trying to be something they're not.
Somebody got a...
Okay, so Nancy said she only caught the end, but she definitely agrees with giving people access to situations they don't have credentials to.
Let's go!
Kathy said forgiveness is like repentance. Let your actions line up with what you say. If you say you are sorry, don't do it again.
Correct.
All right, I like that, Miss Kathy. I like that, Miss Nancy.
So I hope.
What about you, two lovely young men?
Well, what I hope you guys take away from this is getting rid of the stigmas. Not perpetuating those stigmas and letting those be the examples that our boys and males grow up to model their behavior after. And protecting the idea of what it is to be a man. Learning what being a man actually means and protecting that idea and pushing that idea forward instead of all men cheat, men don't have emotions, whoop-de-whoop. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And even though some boys or males may not necessarily have that positive male role model in their life, doesn't mean they still don't have access to information in order to learn what it means to be man or to have that example of what being a man is. Like I said, that's the reason why I created VERB, was to have that platform that provides information that most people otherwise wouldn't have access to. So you can put them on game to stuff like this that we're doing. Get those books that Adrian mentioned by Miles Monroe and other authors who actually have a good idea or a good sense of what it means to be a man or a good sense of the idea of manhood. So that's my biggest, that's what I hope everybody takes away from this. Yeah.
I agree. I hope they take away everything you said and Jazz said. And also just once this information is downloaded into you, stick with it. Like, don't alleviate because you now realize that your father wasn't a man. Because, when it pertains to family, we make exceptions, We like to make exceptions for people. And when you're making those exceptions and your daughters or your boys are hearing you project those things toward these people whose actions are not lining up with what you just received, you're validating them and you're teaching the younger generation the opposite of what you've learned. Does that make sense? So, I really want people to download this information and apply it. Even those of you who are married or in relationships right now, you can probably think now that, dang, my significant other or my partner does need to grow in these areas. So while you run around talking about, oh, that's my man, let him know that, hey, I appreciate you being a man in this area, this area, this area, but could we start working on these? Because he thinks, based on the society's definition, that he's arrived, which is creating confusion in the female or the family or the friend. But if we fully understand what we're saying here and uphold that regardless of family members, boss, whoever the person may be in your life, then we can start to have these conversations. Then we can start realizing that, dang, I need to grow in these areas. Instead of thinking that once I got this crown, it's all inclusive. So just being foundational in the information that you received today. is what I hope people take away from
Yeah.
it.
And we challenge you guys to take what you learned today and actually apply it in your life for next week. Like just take 1 week, next week from starting tomorrow on to the next Saturday when we do our next session. Apply what you took away from this and see the difference that it makes in your life now that you have a different idea or a different perspective on men.
And I would say this, apply it, but don't address it just yet. Like if you're married or you're in a relationship with somebody, don't go to them and be like, oh, you're not a man. Adrian and Aaron say you ain't a man because this and that. No.
No.
Hold on. Slow down. That's not what we're saying.
No.
What we're saying is just observe the areas of improvement, whether it's personal or with your significant other or your partner, your spouse, whatever. And then once you observe that for the week, sit down and try to form a conversation with them about this. Then we can get there. Don't just take off running. Oh, they said, oh, you doing it. Like you that's where it's gonna go left. It's gonna go way left. It takes time. It's a hard pill to swallow. And I will say this, the older the person is, the worse it's gonna be, because they have that concept of, oh, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm a man. So it's going to be hard to get them to understand that, yeah, you are a man in this area, but these things you still need to grow in. Or these things you are not a man in. And you have to accept that. And anyone that can't accept their immaturity is not anything to back away from. It's just a direct identifier of, oh, you showing up immature. Like if you can't accept your areas of immaturity, that lets me know that, first of all, you confident in where you are. Secondly, you don't think that you have room to grow. And we all have room to grow. So that creates a big problem. So just observe these things this week. Don't say anything, keep them to yourself. Whether it's you personally observing them for yourself or you observing them from your uncle, your dad, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. Just observe them. Don't speak on them yet. This information is new. It's a lot to digest, and you will destroy the world if you go out there just throwing it out.
Yeah.
Adrian coming through with the disclaimers.
Right. And once you're ready to talk about it, if you don't feel like you can effectively convey the concept, show them the video.
Yeah.
Just play the
video and then y'all can talk afterwards.
Yeah.
Stacey said that word mistake is used wrongly and irresponsibly.
Write it down. Decision mistake. We're going to deal with that.
9% of the time.
Correct. We're going to deal with that.
Denise says, what is the name of that book again, please?
The author is Miles Monroe. He has a book titled The Power and Purpose of Man. And he also has one titled The Power and Purpose of Woman. I do not recommend you buy just one. Anybody, whether male or female, if you buy one, you need to do both. Because before I read this book, I did not understand my wife for the life of me. And we've had conversation, but after reading this book, I really started to understand her as a woman. Like, it made perfect sense. After reading this book, I started to understand me as a man, because the book addressed a lot of the things that we're talking about, but it puts it in like just this 1, 2, 3. It's like, dang, that's me. Dang, that's her. Okay, let's see what we're gonna do to improve this now. Yeah, it was a game changer. Those books are game changers.
Swanda said dissecting the definition was on point. Webster could never. LOL.
Could never. Webster ain't got nothing on son.
Bro, we be on point with creating our definitions.
For real.
Good job.
We need to write our own dictionary.
Like,
Come on,
Calm down. Good job, guys.
Is the
Y'all
dictionary
keep
not a
it
book?
coming.
I'm just asking.
It
Making
is. It
Was not the words in the
is.
dictionary made up by somebody? I'm just making sure I ain't tripping.
All words
Words
are
are
made up, yo.
Okay. My bad.
What does it mean when all that stuff is happening on the side?
They liking and hearting
okay.
the video.
Isaac says,
Like clapping in.
Isaac says, are you still in the process of writing your book?
Good question, Isaac. I have been lazy, but yes, I am. I'm like 75% through with it, but I've really been lazy lately. But I'm gonna finish it.
And Denise says, thank you.
You're welcome. We love y'all. Thank y'all for the support. Those of you who have been following, please like, share the video, subscribe, watch it with your child, your husband, your wife, your brother, your family, your friend, your uncle, your cousin, your niece, nephew, auntie. Share it We love y'all.
What before we, we gotta wave bye to our future selves, because one day we're gonna look back on this and wonder why we was ever like this in the first place.
Verb in, verb out.
Peace.